Strange Ride is brought to you commercial-free through the generous support of our patrons. Visit strangerideshow.com and click on Donate to help keep the history of the weird on the digital airwaves.
Walt Disney World is almost known for being a place that encourages you to take wholesome videos and pictures of your family while you're there in the parks. But some people have taken this even further and have filmed an entire feature-length movie in Disney World and Disneyland. This is something that has actually happened and premiered at the Sundance Film Festival back in 2013. However, this movie wasn't a wholesome family vacation. It's a surrealist horror movie that transforms what is meant to be the happiest place on Earth into a nightmare that you can't escape from. And this sounds kind of cool, right? Well, the movie's just kind of bad. According to me. Maybe I shouldn't say that.
Nothing like laying your hand on the table right away.
Maybe now that I'm reading it, not at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, I don't know. Should I just...
Go for it. You've said it now. I will argue that it is not entirely bad.
Mediocre.
Let's carry on.
Okay. I personally think the movie's just kind of bad, but it certainly is strange enough for us to talk about it. So,
it's definitely strange.
Today, I will be talking about the movie Escape from Tomorrow, how they filmed it, how they got away with it, and what it's even about. So welcome to Strange Ride, where I tell the smartest man I know the weirdest things I know. My name is Savannah Verrett, and I will be your guide today, but you're not the only ones going on this ride. I, of course, have with me the smartest man I know, Rob C. Thompson of Occult Confessions fame.
Yeah, it's just the two of us today talking about this one. Nobody else wanted to watch this movie.
I didn't want to ask anybody else to watch this movie.
Listen, we're going to be out in the sun for 10 minutes, so you better have your sunblock on.
It's Florida, Jim.
It's Florida, Jim.
So, I guess I'm going to probably leave at least some of what I just did in the intro. So, yeah, I watched this movie and was not impressed. I don't know. I didn't really get it. But, Rob, you
I didn't hate it. Yeah, so Savannah had set it up as something that was not great, and I watched it, and I said, it's not. It does interesting things. Yeah, it does interesting things. I think it has interest and intrigue.
Yeah, and actually, it's so interesting with this podcast because I feel like there's a couple of topics that I've done where I've went into it with I like this thing, and then at the end of this topic I hate it. Like with the 1 Hour, One Life, I'm like, I don't ever want to play that game again. But with this one, I felt like I went into it being like, I'm gonna hate this, and I'm not. I don't know. I feel kind of.
I think the hot take may be that it's not terrible.
Maybe.
I mean, like YouTube and stuff is anti this movie, right?
Where I saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it has something to say. I mean, we'll talk about it today and we'll see what it has to say.
Yeah.
Maybe I won't believe that by the time we're done. But
yeah, maybe we'll talk ourselves out of liking it. I don't think I like it. I think I can confidently say I don't like it, but it's not
But you can see that it's saying something.
Yeah. And I don't hate it because you guys have heard me hate things like the secret space program and stuff like that. It's not going to be anything like that.
Yeah.
But
it has some artistic merit.
Yes,
yeah.
It 100% does. So to the pledge real fast.
Oh right.
I solemnly commit myself to keep my hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the vehicle at all times while on this strange ride. So, this movie, ever since 2013, has faded into obscurity, and it might be random lore that you hear from your one family member or friend who is a film buff, but even then, it doesn't seem like a lot of people even know that this movie exists.
Yeah, is it a movie person's movie, or is it a Disney person's movie?
I think it's both, because, some people have heard about it because they're Disney fans, and they're like, oh, it's they made a horror movie in Disney World. And then other people, film buffs, I think, also are like, they made a horror movie in Disney World because, that's a crazy idea. You know
it's
what I mean?
It's a horror movie.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what it...
Okay.
Do you not... Well, because it seems like Randy Moore, who is the director, believes that it's a horror movie, but also a little bit of a comedy. Whereas the main actor, I watched an interview with him and the main actor who plays the Jim character, and they're in a Ferris wheel together, doing the interview, and the Jim is like, oh yeah, I think this is like a Ben Stiller comedy, and Randy looks at him and is like, no, it's not a Ben Stiller comedy.
Yeah, it's not that. I don't know if it's definitely not a Ben Stiller comedy.
No.
And I can see the body horror, right? Some of the gross out.
Yeah. I would consider it a horror movie. I feel like it tries to be scary.
Yes. But, maybe that's why I didn't hate it. Maybe I didn't view it as a horror movie. I viewed it as a kind of surrealist psychological exploration.
Well, because I'm looking at the cover of it right now. We
Yeah,
literally
it's
have the
beautiful.
DV sitting in front of us, and it's Mickey Mouse's gloved hand reaching upwards like a zombie, but with blood dripping from it.
Yeah, you're right. It is marketing
So-
itself that way. I guess I just looked past it and didn't care and just sort of watched it on those terms. I know what you mean. Like, there's a lot of telegraphed horror imagery that is unsettling. But I guess my counterpoint would be usually a horror movie has some sort of villain. This doesn't.
Jim? I feel like
The protagonist himself is his own villain. That's deep, man.
Yeah.
But it's not like Saw or, even X. Like, there's no
Well, sometimes the
murderer.
scariest thing in horror is the fact that I feel like we haven't even talked about the movie, so the people who have never heard of this movie have no idea.
We'll save this conversation. We'll come back to this.
Sorry. I did consider it a horror movie, and now I want to look at because it does say stuff like chillingly shot in black and white and like a phantasmagorical nightmare on par with something Terry Gilliam might have dreamt.
Sure.
Who's that? So I have no idea. I'm literally reading the back of the box right now.
Yeah. Yes. I agree that it's full of unpleasant imagery.
And I feel like that can help
But
make it a
it's so
horror
far
movie.
as it wants to be surrealist, like surrealist movies are weird and often unpleasant and make you feel icky, but they're not horror movies.
I guess that's fair. Okay. Well, I first heard about this movie. Go back to where I heard about it was a few years ago because of the YouTuber Jenny Nicholson. She made a video about it, and I remember being just shocked at what she was sharing, and I couldn't believe that it was actually real. And then I remember adding it to my little list of fun facts, and then I moved on with my life. However, now I have a podcast where I get to share that little list of fun facts, and I get to do more research about them. So here is that research. Randy Moore is the man who conceived, wrote, and directed this movie, Escape from Tomorrow. It was honestly what seemed like a passion project for him, and a very personal movie as well. It was inspired by the dissonance that was created for him by having experienced the park as a child and experiencing it as a father himself. As a child, his parents were divorced, and he would go to visit his dad, who lived in Orlando, and they would always go to the Disney parks together. And it seems like Moore has some pretty fond memories there. However, he doesn't have a relationship with his father anymore, and when he took his own children to the theme parks, it really set in for him how these fond memories are tainted for him. On this trip with his family is when he started to dream up the concept of Escape from Tomorrow. He said that he went to film school and stuff like that. I don't know actually that much about Randy Moore's life, but he in interviews said this story over and over again, which is why I know so much about his divorced family.
It's how he pitched the genesis of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
He went to film school and stuff, and he said that there was this like one feverish month where he wrote 3 different movie scripts, not all to do with Disney. I don't remember what he said the other 2 were about, but
Can you imagine?
yeah, right. I know, but the middle one was Escape from Tomorrow, the one that he started dreaming up while he was on vacation with his family. And he said that he chose to make the Disney movie because he thought that it would be the easiest to make out of the 3 that he wrote. He said that he wanted to use his friends and thought they could do it very cheap, but that was all wrong. He says himself that his friends are terrible actors, which is a problem we can't relate to. It's like you have to be an actor in order to be friends with us.
Yes.
So he hired a casting director, and then he says that the film like snowballed in size from there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, film guys, I think, often aren't necessarily great actors. They have to use each other. But their interest is not really,
No.
acting is not their
And
primary.
it's so funny watching Randy Moore do interviews because he obviously has no camera presence or like likes talking to people. He is so shy and he's like so sunken in and like looking like, don't look at me, don't talk to me. And he like whispers kind of like this, and it's I was like, Randy Moore, I need to not call him Randy Moore, definitely does not seem like he's enjoying necessarily all of this publicity.
Yeah.
Moore and his crew took at least a half a dozen trips to scout out locations and plan out how they were going to film this movie. Trips to the parks, sorry. And they knew that Disney would never be okay with it, so they were going to do this in secret. The phrase I saw everywhere while researching this movie was, the movie was shot guerrilla style in Walt Disney World. They started this process in 2010, and Moore funded about half of the movie with inheritance that he had received from his grandparents, which is why I argue that this movie was a passion project. He funded a lot of it himself. He put himself through so much stress to make this movie that he supposedly lost 47 pounds and had many, many sleepless nights because he was so afraid that they were going to get caught. Also, the fact that he has said in interviews that this movie isn't necessarily an attack or a political statement against Disney. It's more about him exploring his relationship with his dad and those memories that he had in the parks, which I think also sort of makes the movie stranger, but I guess we'll get to that in a bit. Considering what happens in the movie, I think is why I'm like, okay. So they did film this movie in both Disney World and Disneyland, which do have differences in their layout, which is really interesting watching it as somebody who knows those layouts. I could tell the difference when they were filming it in Disney World and Disneyland.
Why did they do that?
I don't know. I think it might have just been out of, not convenience, but I think they were afraid of getting caught.
Yeah, because it's not convenient to go all the way to Florida if you're in California.
Yeah, exactly. And then I also think, too, that they, like, live in LA. Like, I think that's, like, their home base. So I think they went to Disney World, filmed most of the stuff there, and then did, I think it might have been more, like, pickup shots.
So
and
there's
stuff like
convenience.
That
Got it.
Yeah. That's what I think. They never really said. And also, like I said, they filmed the park scenes at least over the course of, and I quote, 5 or 6 days. So, like, this is what I've heard in multiple interviews and stuff like that. It doesn't like that. It's not like they've been, I'm sure if I probably looked into it a little bit more, I guess I could have found more concrete things. But I was just watching a lot of their interviews about how it was made and the DVD commentary on how it was made. And it was basically just like, oh, yeah, we did it over the course of, like, 5 or 6 days. This thing, like,
no big whoop. Yeah. It's quick, though.
Yeah. They would have to, because Disney would probably notice that you were there for that long, like 2 weeks even.
The most challenging thing is the retake, right? Like, it's normal for people to be filming and photographing each other in the park, but not for them to be repeating the same thing over and over again.
Exactly. So they would meet in Moore's hotel room and run through the blocking and the scene over and over and over again until they had it perfect. And then they would all separately make their way into the park. And they stayed on campus, or like on Disney property. I think one of the hotel rooms that they stay in and actually filmed shots in is in the Contemporary. I don't know if they all stayed there because the Contemporary is like one of their most expensive hotels, but yeah, so they would all make their way separately into the park. And so the crew would probably like wander in on their own in at most groups of 2. And it seems like they had the family act as a family the entire time. Like there's in the movie, the main characters are a mom and a dad and their son and daughter, and they're on a Disney World vacation.
Isn't it odd for a single man to be walking into the Disney park?
Not necessarily.
All right. I don't want to harsh the single man on a date with himself, but...
Well, that's why...
The family's the most ordinary, or the French girls in the story, like 2 girls, teenage girls going into the park together. That makes sense.
So...
Just like one 35-year-old dude.
The way... They never really talked about... From what any interviews that I saw, that it's not like they went in depth on exactly how they snuck into the parks and stuff like that, but they did make it seem like that they never tried to be in more than groups of 2 because they didn't want to be they didn't want to look like a big group of people. But people go to Disney in big groups of people.
Yeah, I would have been all right. I would have been like, oh, let's be the 4 of us are friends going to the park together. Not.
I mean, maybe they did do that.
Here we are,
I'm
a gay
doing
couple.
a lot of guesstimation for like at least how they got into the parks and stuff. But I think the most important point to take away is that I think the only group of people that remained a group of people was the family. Like,
Yeah.
they were the only ones who ever were
And they had to
all
act
together.
that way anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they were the only people who were ever all together. And,
Maybe the French girls, I would let them go in together. No?
oh, yeah, I'm sure. But that's a group of two. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
But again, like a unit of humans you would expect going to the park.
But also, like, I mean, well, I'm a woman, so I guess it's a little bit different. But, like, I went to the parks by myself. There's plenty of, like, people that go to the parks by themselves. So I don't think it's that weird. And that's where I want to go with this, too, is, like, because some people seem to praise the movie just for being like, I can't believe that this got made. But it's not. Disney wants you to go there. Disney wants you to. They don't want you to film a movie there,
They wouldn't want to stop a single guy coming in,
even
if he looks like he's carrying an unusually large camera.
Well, so they are not. They filmed it on normal home video cameras.
Yeah, that
so
makes
it wasn't
sense.
suspicious.
Mm-hmm. And the black and white effect sort of like makes that less obvious, takes away some of
Yes. Where was I even going? So I jumped ahead a little bit. Yeah, so some of this is my own guesstimation, but I'm pretty positive I heard them say a couple times that, like, they would go off into, like, groups of two, no more than two, especially when they were giving the actors notes and stuff like that, because they didn't want to draw attention to themselves and make it look like they were a group. So they'd all meet at the filming location, like in front of Space Mountain or like in front of the castle or whatever. They would set up the cameras, and then they would send in the actors, and then they'd film the scene, and then they would all disperse with one actor going off with one member of the crew to receive notes and to talk about their next take. And I read that each scene was filmed, like, at most 3 times, because they were so afraid of getting caught that they just had to trust that they got the scene right. Because, like you said, Rob, that Disney would probably notice someone going to the same spot doing the same motion over and over again.
Yes.
If they did it however many times, So, there was, in some of the interviews that I saw, more was like, my cinematographer would come up to me and be like, we got it. And I'd just have to trust him because I wasn't able to watch it, really, so they would just continue on.
You can do amazing things with editing. You can't change bad acting, though.
Yeah. And so they filmed also on many rides as well, as well as, like, just out and about in the parks.
That's true. That was tricky, wasn't it? No? They just got in the cart in front?
I'm sorry?
Like, it's tricky to do.
To film yourself on a ride?
Well, you're not filming yourself because you can see the characters in the cart, which means that the camera has to be a cart in front.
Oh, to me what it looked like is that, because some of those ride vehicles don't, like, okay.
Go ahead.
I think a lot of those ride films or scenes, to me, what it looked like was that the cast itself had the camera on the front of the ride vehicle just pointed back at them.
Oh, so they didn't have another. I assumed there was another cameraman, but maybe you're right.
And the reason I say that, because I feel like some of the ride vehicles, they would have been able to do that. Like, It's a Small World and stuff like that. I'm sure they would have been able to do that.
I mean, it's a weird social, again, like if you try to imagine the realism for a Disney cast member who's watching this family be filmed by a guy in the next car.
Yeah, well, I think that could be suspicious for them too, because when you're in those rides, people are watching you constantly.
Right.
And so, like, if you are doing something suspicious, they will either stop the ride or stop you on the way out of the ride.
But it wouldn't be unusual for you to film yourself.
No, and people do it all the time.
Sure.
And people film the rides themselves all the time. So, like, even then, like, if they saw a camera in your hand, they'd probably be like, they're just filming the ride.
Right.
And my argument for this as well is some of the ride vehicles that they were on, you literally cannot record somebody from the ride vehicle in front of them, so it would have been
because it has like a clamshell behind it.
Yes, like the Winnie the Pooh ride, you're in a honey pot that has this big thing behind you, so they wouldn't have been able to record.
And that was way
behind.
Up in their faces.
Yeah.
Small World, I feel like we got a little bit more distance from them.
I feel like they probably did a little. I feel like they did a little bit of both in Small World.
In Small World, the boats are bigger, right?
Yeah,
so
and then also
your
vehicle is literally right on top of the next vehicle. Like, you guys are right next. You could touch the boat in front of you if you wanted to, most of the time. And so, like, that thing. So, yeah. So, I feel like there was different ways that they went about it. I definitely feel like a lot of the ways was that they probably had the family themselves filming things, too. Mm-hmm. And I say family, they're actual actors and not actually related to one another, but just simpler to call them the family in this.
Yeah, let's hope they're not real people. Boy, they're awful.
Really, truly. So, but speaking of It's a Small World, they apparently spent 3.5 hours on It's a Small World in order to get the right takes for that one.
I believe that.
So, yeah.
They had to get all those close-ups of the little creatures now.
Of the dolls and stuff. And then they also had, like, the weird, like, sort of dream sequency type thing where the mom was like, I hate you.
Yeah,
And I was like, what's happening?
That's going to drive you nuts to have to ride Small World
they
for
did
3
say...
hours.
The actors were like, that sucked so much. and then they were, and this I think goes against their point where, like, I think they were stressing themselves out more than they needed to, because he was like, I thought the ride vehicle, or the cast members would have been more savvy to what we were doing because we rode the ride over and over and over again for 3.5 hours. And I'm like, people do that.
I once rode Pirates of the Caribbean 17 times in a day. Yeah.
I'm like, the ride vehicle people, as long as you're not being disruptive, they don't give a shit while you're riding the ride.
It was pre-Johnny Depp, though. I just want everyone to know. When it was cool to ride Pirates of the Caribbean 17 times.
Honestly, though, that ride is... When you go down that hill and you enter that room for the first time where there's a pirate ship and you look like you're
it's
out
so
on
cool.
the coast, it's the coolest fucking thing in the world.
Moment.
And the cannons fucking are going off.
Yeah.
It's the coolest thing in the world. I just love it.
So, we're all getting off Small World.
Sorry. So, yeah, like I said a little bit earlier, they filmed on home video cameras, so it wasn't suspicious for them to be, like, setting up cameras or having them with them, because so many people do that and bring it with them. And like Rob said, that they filmed the movie completely in black and white, and they did this because Moore said that it would give the movie less of a home video feel, which I totally agree that it does.
Yeah.
And then also... I will give the film credit. It is interesting to see a place that is always so bright and colorful be in black and white the entire time.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. And so, like, I don't think it transforms the parks quite as much as they boast about it, because I was texting Rob while I was watching it. I'm like, this movie feels like it's meant to be like Disney World's a horrific place. But as I was watching the family go about their day, I was like, I'm excited to go back. So
see those demonic children in Small World.
I don't think it transforms it quite as much as it boasts it does. But it does change them. And so it was a practical thing and ended up working for their art, which we love when that happens.
Yes. I mean, to his point about family, what triggered me most was just how awful their marriage was. Mm. Yeah. I found that really grating, and not anything about the park in the first, 45 minutes or whatever.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
So in the DVD commentary, they talked about how exhausting it was running back and forth in the parks all day long to, like, film in different locations. Like, they'd film in front of Space Mountain, and then they'd film something in front of the Rivers of Tomorrow, which is literally, like, on the opposite end of the park. Excuse me. So, they apparently, like, to help get the actors to places faster, rented wheelchairs from the park and just started pushing the actors, like, so that they could get there quickly before they lost sunlight and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah. Which I think is a little goofy, but
kind of, because somebody's got to do that run, right?
Yeah. So I guess to me what it implied was that they were pushing the cast members, because the cast members were getting tired running back and forth, which buckle up, Buttercup, or whatever,
right?
because it's fucking a Disney vacation is exhausting.
Yeah, so. You 4-year-old child actor.
No, it was the woman who was complaining about it. It was the adult woman that was complaining about it.
I knew that she was a little bit that character. I could feel it.
I didn't think she was a great actress either, so.
She certainly made me feel bad.
Well, that's fair, but... So they also used their cell phones like a ton to help film this movie. The script was on their phones, the shot lists were there too, and then they'd text each other notes and things as well. They didn't film anything on their phones because this was before really iPhones were like really great at taking
Right.
videos and
Tangerine.
stuff like that. On the last day of filming was when they were caught. I say in quotation marks because they weren't really. But so they were filming a scene where the family was meant to enter the park. So the crew set up their cameras and point them towards the turnstiles that you have to go through in order to get into the parks. And then the family then entered the park a few different times, all in a very close timing together. So on the last time that they entered the park, a security guard approached them and is like, why are you entering and exiting the park over and over again?
That is weird.
Yes, it is weird. And I'm good on that security guard. And so the family went on acting as if they were a family, and even the young kids continued the act too. And they told the guard that they had to get sunscreen and whatnot. And then the little girl was like, I have to go to the bathroom. So the family goes to the bathroom.
Whoa, good on her.
I know. So the family goes to the bathroom, and there they took off their microphones that they were wearing and they hid them. And apparently the main actor, Roy Abramson, went so far as to like hide his mic in his sock so that the guard wouldn't find it. like they're acting like they're fucking spies and shit like
man.
that. Even though, like, if I believe that if Disney like caught them like filming a movie, they'd just be like, can you just leave?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't think they can do much more.
Yeah, I don't think there would
It's
have
already
been...
too late.
Exactly. But they were acting like Disney was going to like shoot them on the spot if they found out. But anyway, so they see the crew were all watching this from a distance and they were in horror, and Moore apparently walked by a cinematographer and was whispering, we're made, we're made, we're made.
We're made.
So once the family left the bathroom, that they noticed that there was a parade going on, so they used that as a distraction to like get away from
Oh, it's like The
guard.
Fugitive.
Yes, I know. It literally, the way that they were describing it was like this grand heist. So they like apparently the guard wasn't paying attention for them when they were leaving the bathroom, and they saw the parade, and Roy Abramson apparently was like to the wife being like, let's go, and like doing the whole like eye moving thing. It was like, the parade's here, we gotta go. And so they like go through the crowd of the parade, and then they go and they sneak out, and then they ran back to their hotel room or something like that.
The one-armed man is filming a movie in Disney World. That's who it is.
Moore said that he was thankful that happened on their final day of filming, because if it happened at the beginning, he would have been too afraid to make the rest of the movie. After they finished filming, they started editing the movie, and they were all very happy with the shots that they did get. And there was a rumor that I saw online, and it's proudly stated on the wiki, that when they were editing this movie, that they had it edited in South Korea to keep it off of Disney's radar, as if just saying Disney's name summons their lawyers. But that's not true. Like, so they filmed...
Like the editing software would tell Disney?
Exactly. That's why I was like, what the fuck are you talking
It's
about?
bizarre.
And that's where I was like, if you did that, you're a douchebag. Like, you are thinking way too highly of yourself. But that's not actually what happened.
And you don't understand how editing software works. Which is odd.
And it's like, at that point, you've already filmed your shots. It's like, Disney can't come into your home and delete them. Maybe.
Right. No, not legal. I mean, that would be they're like the CIA.
Wild.
Yeah.
That's what everybody who made this movie acted like they were doing, was like they could get shot at any moment for making this movie. And that, I think, is the thing that makes me like, chill out, guy, because people, and I'm looking at this from a 2025 lens, where people have literally made their careers filming things in Disney World, like
right.
vloggers and stuff like that. So I'm like, Disney doesn't necessarily care about that. I think they do care if you're trying to say something bad about them. Like, I don't think Disney wanted this movie to get made, but it's also like, as you're there filming it, as long as you're not being crazy disruptive, I don't think they're going to necessarily care that much.
And it's fictionalized. I mean, they're not it's not like a documentary catching the park doing things.
Yeah,
or like they're
exactly.
sneaking backstage or something.
Mm-hmm. Most of it was edited in a tiny studio in LA, but some of it was edited in South Korea, because of their one producer, Sujin Chung, had a studio there do like the special effects for the movie.
Oh, that makes sense.
So once it was made, they were going to do a bunch of film festivals like overseas, but then the producer, Chung, was able to get it into the guy who was running Sundance that year, and he loved the movie and was like, we need to display this movie. And I think it became this big thing where they were like, we have to show this movie, but are we allowed to show this movie? So Sundance was very secretive about it, because I think Sundance, like, they have a bunch of like corporate sponsors and stuff like that, but they also were like, but this is like an independent art piece that's tackling Disney. Like, I feel like we need to show this movie, but they kept it very secret and they didn't really talk about it until it was basically going up at Sundance. And then once it was up at Sundance, that's when the advertising went crazy and everybody was like, you have to see this movie now and you have to see it at Sundance because it's never going to see the light of day again. Because Disney's lawyers are going to strike it down. But it turns out, actually, that Disney doesn't necessarily really have a case to shut it down. Now, Disney has all the money in the world, so they could have sued them into oblivion and stopped them.
It made trouble, yeah.
Yes, but Disney, when they found out that this movie exists, and they did acknowledge... one of their lawyers acknowledged to like one news program that they knew that it existed, they just ignored it, which was arguably the right call because suing it would give it more publicity. And then also like it would look bad on them for...
There's a possibility that like ACLU or somebody gets involved and then, it gets real ugly.
Well, they had like copyright like lawyers and like professors of like copyright and stuff like that rallying behind this movie.
So Disney in theory could, try to shut it down just with lawyers, but the possibility that there's a public outcry in terms of like freedom of speech.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they don't. Then Disney finds itself in a public relations mess.
Oh yeah, and then
it's the right call to leave it alone.
Exactly, and then the movie fades into obscurity, and
right.
we talk about it on a podcast
yes.
instead of it being like global news that Disney's trying to strike down these private creators. Yeah. But the reason that Disney doesn't necessarily have a case for it is their one lawyer, Michael Donaldson. He says that of course Disney owns the copyright to the parks themselves. Whatnot. However, once you are in the parks, the rules of your ticket do not prohibit you from filming anything inside of the parks. And it doesn't actively say you can't film a movie here, you can't do this here.
Because I'm sure it gets complicated insofar as they want you to take family photos and movies.
Exactly, because
there.
It also helps advertise for them and stuff too. Right. And people go there to take these pictures and videos. So of course it's not against their rules to take pictures and videos and things. So once they're there doing that and they're filming it, it's not technically against the rules. And then once they've filmed that thing, that film becomes their own personal copyright, the filmmaker's copyright.
That's true, yeah.
And on top of that, it's also a parody of Disney World. It's not meant, like you said, it's not a documentary of Disney World. And even like I think there was this article that I read from like a copyright like professor who was like, now it would be different if it was just like a romantic comedy
set in Disney World.
Yeah, that would be completely different. However, this movie is not that. It completely changes Disney World, and you look at it through a completely different lens. So it is completely correct under fair use laws.
It's making a comment on the location. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I find that really interesting. And Michael Donaldson even said, he's like, so the only thing that anybody could get really in trouble with is in the act actually filming it. But at that point, it's up to Disney and their cast members to be the ones to enforce it. And if they don't enforce it right then and there, as it's happening, they can't get in trouble for it later.
Yes.
So I find it to be an incredibly interesting argument.
I mean, you could look at that with the local news, right? When people are trying to like not be on camera, like, excuse me, sir, can you tell me? And he's like, because once you say something, it's too late.
Yeah.
Or once your face is caught, it's too late.
Yeah. So because all these people were like, how did this movie get made? Like, and like, how is it possible for them to distribute it? Well, that's why, because they own the copyright to this, and because it's a parody of the parks and Disney, and they transform it enough that it becomes fair use.
Sure.
So I think that is a really interesting... I think that's one of the more interesting things about this movie, and that's why I'm like, I'm glad that it got made. I'm not mad that it got made. I can say that.
Yes, it's an interesting cultural product.
Yeah. So let's get into... I think we're ready.
All right, let's do this. Are you going to do like a synopsis, or how does this go?
That's what I'm thinking.
All right.
Well, okay, I also probably should have said this, that the film's final budget would be $650,000.
Whoa, that's cheap.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, Moore paid for like half of it, and then I think he got like his producer and other producers and whatever to pay for the rest of it. And the movie only made, because it did get released, it did get picked up and distributed and was released in some theaters, not a lot. It only made like 130 something. Oh. So it wasn't like, and I personally don't feel like Moore was even really trying to make money. He just wanted people to see it. Is what the sense that I got from the interviews. However, I will say the sense that I got from the main actor in the interviews was that guy is a freak, and I don't like him.
The actor?
Yeah, and okay. I watched all these interviews before the movie, and I think it also made me be like, I really do not like this character.
Okay, all right.
The character, okay. All right, so very quick synopsis of what the movie is actually about. There is a man named Jim, and he is on vacation in Walt Disney World. He wakes up in the morning, gets a phone call from his boss, and is fired. It doesn't say why. He's just fired. And so he's like, okay, family, I want to have one last good day in Disney World. But as he gets to the Magic Kingdom, things start going really weird for him. With him, like, stalking these underage girls, 16-year-old girls throughout the park, and then, like, he starts seeing, like, weird things throughout the park.
He sees weird things first. So if he sees these two French girls,
those are the first things he sees.
Yes, he sees the girls, yes. And I think they're meant to be really there. Whatever that means. It's very complicated as to what's really there and what's not, whether even he's really there. But then on the Small World ride is the first time he actually has a hallucination, or what we would characterize as the audience as a hallucination.
Yes.
And then he starts stalking the French girls. So it's sort of like a descent into madness. Like, you can see cute girls on the monorail and not stalk them. That's okay.
Yeah.
So he's introduced to the girls. Then he starts to go a little bit off.
Oh.
And then he starts to stalk them. I think there's a moment where he could have not stalked them, except that he's getting loonier and loonier, and his wife is making things worse for him.
Yeah, I will say every member of the family, the kids are very cute, but they're awful. Every member of the family is just a horrible, cartoony version of what you'd expect these people to be, I guess. Like typical Disney World vacationers kind of thing.
I believe the order of events is she refuses to kiss him on Winnie the Pooh or something.
Yeah, so
and that's what then spurs him to start stalking the French girls.
Now I wish I'd rewatch. Oh, God, now I wish I'd rewatch the movie because I don't remember that sequence of. Because I will say it does a good job of just being like, we're just all over the place now. Like, we're just like...
Well, I mean, the logic of it, though, like, if you think about it, he's with the whole family and then he's just with his son. So there is a break with the wife that then spurs him. And his son is also, like, has a little crush on the French girls. So the two of them start stalking them. I guess the logic of it to me is, I mean, the movie is about sexual repression in some way, the sexual repression of the, middle-aged married man. So in that way, you can't have that logic without the wife rejecting his advances.
Okay.
Yeah, as subtle as it is, and it's not actually very subtle. He tries to kiss her like subtle. 8 times, and she's like, "Not here, not here, not here."
Yeah. So.
And I'm like, "Just kiss him already! Come on, just get it over with."
Hold on.
Okay, fine.
So hang on. Let's because I feel
not
like
in front of Pooh Bear.
For people, shut up. You dick. Let me complete the synopsis of this movie. You're not allowed to speak until I say so.
I know, but your events were a little out of order.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'll wait.
General synopsis of the movie. Yeah, he starts having hallucinations. He's stalking these teenage girls. He's riding rides with his family. And then him and his wife get into an argument and they split up.
The splitting up is not... so there is the kiss moment, but I feel like when they divide, it's like a thing I would do with my wife. Like, there's a logic to it that the son wants to do certain things and the daughter wants to do other things. So it's not as if they do get into altercations later, but at that moment when they initially divide. But that
altercation is, because I was like, that altercation is important. So so they're having like he's having weird things happen to him at Disney World, but him and his wife and his daughter are not having, like, they're having a normal day, and then they kind of trade places where the mom takes the son and then he takes the daughter, and then weird stuff starts to happen, like this like weird kid that like pushes his daughter down and she scrapes her knee and she's got to go to the nurse, and then the nurse is like, watch out for cat flu, and then she starts like sobbing as soon as they leave the hotel, or leave the not the hotel, the like nurse station, whatever.
Yeah, she's very interested in his health, even though he brought his daughter in for the scraped knee.
Yes.
The nurse becomes very concerned about his health, which is quite strange.
Yes. So then he goes and he meets a woman who tells him that the turkey leg he's eating is not actually turkey, it's emu, which is like a urban legend that's been a thing in Disney World forever.
But that's sort of her role, is to like spout urban legends about Disney World.
Yes, and also trigger warning, there is, well, I guess sexualization of minors, and then also rape. That is a thing that happens in this movie.
Go on.
So I just wanted to warn you that that's happening. So she like hypnotizes him with this weird necklace that she has, and he blacks out, and then he wakes up and she is having sex with him, and he is tied up, and he doesn't seem to be like okay with it. So, and he's like, where's my daughter? And she's like, oh, it's fine. And she finishes with him, and then she tells him that Disney prostitutes the princesses to rich Asian businessmen, and then it's like, just kidding, and he's like, okay, and then she unties him, and then he takes his daughter and he leaves. And
his daughter's like watching TV with the woman's son, but not enjoying the TV either, I don't think.
No, and it was
she's
like
having a bad time.
It was something weird on the TV too, and so then they go back to their hotel where the wife and the son are in the pool, and they get in the pool with him, and then he sees the teenage girls again, and then he gets really upset that the teenage girls want to go and be with teenage boys instead of him, and he cries about it, and she's literally like, are you crying? And he's like, no.
One of the girls does seem to express interest in him, which is odd.
Yes.
But yeah, he's also very odd in expressing his interest toward them.
Yeah, because he was literally like skulking over to them. Like he like puts his head in the water.
Hippo. It's like like a cartoon hippo, just sort of like floating in their direction.
His nose was just loosely above the water, and then he was like a frog swimming over to this. It was fucking weird.
And one of the girls clearly wants nothing to do with him, but the other one, for some reason, is interested in him, which I think becomes clearer later why.
Yes. So then they go to Epcot, and he gets super drunk around the world, and him and his wife get into another...
Not even around the world, like in 2 countries he's
that's
done.
True,
yeah,
but...
By Mexico, I don't even think he's drinking. He's just already gone.
Yes, that's true. And him and the wife get into another really big argument that culminates in her slapping their daughter in front of a cast member. Like, I think this film was...
Potentially.
It was potentially actually filmed... This part was... I do want to say not every single every single scene that I am mentioning here was actually filmed in Disney World. Like, obviously, the sex scene was not. There's a lot of scenes that you can tell are green screen. So, like, some of the more outrageous things that we will be talking about today... happen on a green screen or in a hotel room
inelegantly,
or something.
I want to say the green screen is not very elegantly done.
No.
It's my least favorite part of the movie.
But yeah, so the wife they get into an argument. She slaps the daughter, and then she takes her son, and they go back to the hotel room. And so he takes his daughter on Soarin', where instead of seeing like the normal like Soarin', the ride, you're supposed to be flying over different countries and stuff like that. There's just a naked woman in the middle of the screen.
She's wearing bottoms.
Yeah, that's true. She's got her tits out, but
all of her is out except for her vagina.
Yes. And that's there, and she's like, I'm waiting for you, Jim. I'm waiting for you.
You belong to me.
Yeah.
You belong to me, Jim. You're mine.
So then they get off the ride, and the French girls are there, and the one French girl comes over to him and is like, come with me. And he's like, no. And then she spits on him. And then he loses his daughter in that sequence. And so he runs around the park looking for her.
That very moment when the French girl's having the conversation, which is quite tense.
Yeah, it's really strange. I'm just doing a really quick thing. That way we can go into the details. That way they have at least a general idea of what's happening.
Adding a little bit of the paprika.
I thought I told you weren't allowed to talk.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I don't follow instructions very well.
No. So then, so he's running around looking for his daughter, and then these 2 like really strange security guards like zap him in the balls, and this is actually what happens. And true. So he passes out, and he wakes up, and he's underneath / what looks like inside of Spaceship Earth, where Rob, you got to take it from here because I still have no idea what this is.
So there's a German scientist who worked for the Siemens Corporation.
Yes, which is an actual corporation that did sponsor Spaceship Earth when this movie was being made.
So this guy claims that Disney doesn't know he's there, but that he is working on behalf of Siemens and has somehow plugged into Jim's imagination. However, that Jim is not actually Jim. There is a different Jim that is the real Jim. And we look up at this screen because, he's a mad scientist with screens and all this stuff.
And pictures of naked women all over the place.
Yeah, of his wife.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I'm giving it away. Spoiler alert. So there's naked pictures of the woman from the screen. So then this Epcot ball forms around his head as this is all going on. And in order to get out, because he's also confined to a chair, and he's being told he's not the real Jim. There's a different Jim that's the real Jim, and we look up, and it's this Jim on the screen is wearing a fedora and he's having a lovely time, I guess.
And he has a hot wife.
He has a hot wife who's pictured all over this ball of whatever, and Jim's tied up to the chair, like James Bond style, and so Jim takes out a tube of Neosporin. Geosporic, and
is what they call it in the movie,
and they
to avoid copyright.
Yeah, that they blank out the name, and he's sort of like, as Savannah said to me, jizzes it all over the place.
He does.
Yeah, so it does look like he's having an orgasm, and I
and
think
the
that's
way
important.
He's thrusting and stuff
Yes.
like that, and like it
to get it to come out.
This is the second episode now in a row where I've talked about someone jizzing all over something.
It short circuits the machine. And he manages to escape, and he decapitates the scientist, who turns out to be a robot.
And was like, I was trying to help you.
Yes, that's all he says. His severed head says, I was trying to help you.
So Jim escapes from the Epcot ball and is running around still looking for his daughter. And he runs into the scooter man again, whose son pushed his daughter down. And the scooter guy drops his turkey leg, and he's like, my turkey leg, and Jim's like, it's not turkey leg, it's emu. And then he's like, wait, the emu, the lady has my daughter.
She must have kidnapped my daughter. Somehow that's what gets put together. And it is true.
Yeah, so he goes back to that hotel room, and there the woman is dressed like the evil queen from Snow White. Poorly done, and then he goes into the room, and his daughter is sleeping on a bed of roses and is
dressed like Snow White.
So he goes over and he kisses her on the head. She wakes up and she's like, Dad, we were just playing Snow White. And the woman's like, there's nothing weird going on here, and I was going to return your daughter anyway. And he's like, this is weird. And so he takes the daughter, and she tries to hypnotize him again, and it's working, but then the daughter takes the necklace and breaks it. And then they just leave. It
turns out that she was a park princess.
Oh, right.
And but this is a very bad green screen moment where she's dressed as like a medieval princess, not any of the park princesses. And she crushed a child's ribs while hugging the child.
Yes.
Yeah. And that soured her, I guess.
Yeah, because she was fired from the parks after that.
Yes.
For killing a child.
Rightfully so, yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if she killed the kid, but there was a crunching sound.
They implied that
it did not go well for the child.
Yeah, they implied that she killed the kid, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, okay.
Anyhow.
So then they just leave. And the little girl was like, I had fun playing with you. As they're leaving.
Yeah. She's very polite.
Yeah. Except not with her family. So then he takes his daughter back to the hotel room. His wife and his son are asleep, and he gets his daughter ready for bed, and he goes to bed for a little bit before he wakes up, and he's very sick, and he goes to the bathroom, and he's literally shitting his brains out on the toilet, and then ends up vomiting up hairballs.
Two of them, yeah.
Yep. And
this is nasty. This is the nasty part of the movie.
He has the cat flu.
Mm-hmm.
And
as the nurse warned.
Yep.
So many scenes ago.
And so and then you get a bunch of flashbacks showing you how he got the cat flu.
The French girl spit in his face.
Yes, and
which is what she did when he refused to go with her.
Mm-hmm. And so then he is sitting in the room, in the bathroom, dying, and the son gets up to go use the bathroom, and he sees his dad dying, and he's like, Elliot, help me. And Elliot just fucking closes the door and walks away and lets him die. So then the mom wakes up, sees Jim dead in the bathroom, and is like, oh God. And then so I guess she calls somebody, and so the Disney police show up, and they
in hazmat-esque suits. They're in these coveralls.
That have
the
little
Disney
Mickey
cover-up
symbols.
crew. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they go in there and they clean up Jim's corpse, And then they go over to the son, and the son, all he wanted to do the entire vacation was ride Buzz Lightyear, but he wasn't able to because it kept shutting down or the line was too long. And so they replaced...
Which seems to be a conspiracy.
Yes. They replaced the memory of Jim dying with the boy getting to finally ride Buzz Lightyear.
Mm-hmm.
And then we cut away from the family and we see the cleanup crew like take Jim's body and like out the back, and they're about to like take it somewhere, wherever they're going to take it. And then we see Jim with his hot wife and
Happy
his
Jim.
other daughter. Happy
The hot
Jim.
wife is the one from the movie with the breasts.
Yes, with the fedora.
Mm-hmm.
And
and his daughter.
And they get out of the car and they are starting their Disney vacation.
Yes, the real Jim.
The real Jim.
That's really you, Jim.
And that's where the movie ends.
That's it. That's your experience. We've escaped from tomorrow.
Have we?
No.
Yeah, I was like...
So we went back and forth on what this means.
Yes.
Whether it means anything, and what exactly it's trying to say. My take on it, I think the scientist is sort of the pivotal scene, and I have questions still from what's going on here. But the pivotal scene or moment maybe is when the scientist says, "You're not the real Jim. You're in some sense imaginary. The real Jim is this guy over here, who we meet finally at the end." So
I will say for this scene, I think I watched it like 2 or 3 times before I was just like, fuck it. I couldn't understand a word the actor was saying. I was struggling so hard. I caught a couple of things. Like he does say that was like, we had to shut down Buzz Lightyear or whatever,
right.
to considering that everything that was happening to Jim, like the hallucinations, the French girls, all of it, even his son who was acting weird and seemed like he was kind of like wanting to kill his father, is all a conspiracy by the Seaman Corporation.
None of them are real.
Yeah.
None of them are actually a part of Jim's life. But Jim isn't actually Jim. He's some sort of bizarro doppelganger, dark nightmare, presumably of the real Jim. But we don't discover this until the end when the real Jim shows up. So the scientist says the line, and I think I said this, that Disney doesn't know we're here.
Yeah.
Which is exactly true of the movie, right? This entire movie was shot on the premise that Disney doesn't know we're here. In order for the director to create this dark vision of Disney World, just like the German has somehow conjured this dark, nightmarish experience for Jim. So the way I described it to my wife after seeing it was that what you watch is the version of Disney that Disney doesn't want you to, I guess, subconsciously associate with them. So where the movie ends is where the Disney commercial should start, with Happy Jim entering the hotel.
With his happy wife and
about
his
to
happy
have
kid.
a wonderful time. Yes. But what we see is the German guy's conjuring of Disney World, which I suppose is the director's conjuring of the darkness of his family experience, which was not so happy in Disney World.
Yeah.
And he kills that. So maybe it's a kind of exorcism. The director is killing his own demon there by killing off Jim with the cat flu, which I don't know what this means, but my immediate thought on the cat flu was that, Disney is the House of Mouse. What is the mouse's mortal enemy? The cat. So there's some sort of game going on there with cat flu. It's also just disgusting and weird with the eyes and all that.
Yeah, because like
he looks cat-like as he's dying
that
or
made
as he's
me
dead.
laugh out loud though. Like he looked really stupid, and he looked like Mac from Always Sunny with his cat eyes in the show.
Yeah.
And then he also had this like really strange grin on his face too as they were taking him away as he was dead. But I will say, like, that moment gave me a very visceral reaction. Like he throws up actual hairballs.
Yeah, it's
and
gross.
It's really gross.
It's blood all over the toilet.
And
it's nasty.
I genuinely had to I almost fast forwarded through that part because I was actually gagging. Like I
it's
almost
nasty.
actually threw up.
Ugh.
It's just like I can watch the Saw movies no problem. But
Yeah,
this
what's up with
fucking
you?
part, I don't know.
I sat through it no problem. I think I was eating a scone. Had a big old bowl of ramen.
No, I legitimately was like, ugh, like I felt like the saliva forming. Like I was like, oh my god, I'm actually going to throw up. Holy shit! I also feel like that this movie is like in a way making fun of people who enjoy Disney World vacations too.
I just don't know. It's so. All right, let me do my other take on this, and then I'll let you try that.
Okay.
Because to really get to the core of Jim, you again that scene is pivotal.
Yeah.
The
also,
the orgasming.
yes. Okay. And
You want me to wait on the orgasming?
No.
Okay.
Well, yes, I do because
Hold that.
hold.
What do they call
hold
this?
the orgasm.
What do they call this in the porn world? What does this say?
Gooning? Isn't that the thing?
No, gooning is when you masturbate until you can't think
Oh,
anymore.
okay, never mind. Cuckolding?
Cuckold. We're being Savannah's cuckolding. Anyway,
Stop.
you're cucking me. Am I getting
I'm
cucked?
not, none of this is being in the episode, so you just
This
stop
is the
talking.
best part.
Well, because you pointed out that first moment where the wife refuses to kiss him.
Oh yeah. We need to definitely
we
do that.
need to
Let's
talk
do that.
about
Let's
that.
start there, because then I can get into sexual repression.
Yeah. So it's interesting, like when he's out. Well, let's go back towards the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting when he's out on the hotel balcony. You can see the Magic Kingdom in the background, like they're staying at the Contemporary and stuff like that. He gets the phone call, and then his son locks him out of the hotel, like on
Yes.
the thing. But instead of banging on the door to be like, wife, who is sleeping right next to the door, let me in, he calls her. Did you
Yes.
notice that? I thought that was weird. But so.
Because he doesn't want to wake his daughter.
Oh, okay.
So now you've just got the parenting expert here in the room to.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to wake your other kid.
But also in my notes I wrote, no one sleeps in on a Disney vacation. Wake up.
Well, the boy's up to lock him out.
That's true.
But the boy's like the outsider, right? The boy is
yes.
always against his father, except that the boy aligns with his father in the desire for the French girls. That's also, I think, interesting.
Yes. I do also want to say, too, just to throw it out there, because this movie really drives home the point, even on the DVD cover right now, it says bad things happen everywhere. It shows someone getting decapitated on Big Thunder Railroad is like the very first thing that happens in the movie.
Oh,
Do you remember?
I don't remember that.
That was literally the first thing that happened.
It's in black and white.
Yeah.
And it happens quickly, right?
Yes.
I don't think I realized. Maybe I didn't realize
Someone
what I was
literally
seeing.
gets their head chopped off on Big Thunder Railroad, which I was like, okay. It's a way to start the movie. And then we see Jim. I just wanted to
And
throw that
the
out
next
there.
time we hear about it is the evil queen character tells
yeah.
us about decapitations in the park, but otherwise we don't ever see it again.
No.
Yeah.
We never see anything like that necessarily again. So then,
So the kissing, you want to talk about the kissing?
Yes, they're in the Winnie the Pooh ride, and you were
Yes.
like, you said he should have just kissed her, but it looked like he was trying to like make out with her on this ride with their children.
I guess I didn't see it that way.
That are right
Yeah, because she
in
kept saying
front of him.
the children are there. The children
Yeah, and
are
it
there.
felt like he was like, he had his arms like completely around her, and it felt like he was trying to like do sexual stuff while they're on this ride. It wasn't like he was just like, give me a kiss, and she was like, no. He was trying to like have sex with her on this ride.
Yeah.
The Winnie the Pooh ride, which is arguably the most terrifying ride in all of Disney
The
World.
director clearly doesn't like this character, I think. Or he loves the character, but, loves to hate the character. The character is not somebody I think we're supposed to like.
No,
'Cause
I
he's
certainly did
Dark
not.
Jim, right?
I certainly did not like him.
What's that's teasing out is, I guess I focus on the wife character because I'm a man in a heterosexual marriage, but it's suggesting, like, the kids. It's the way, the nuclear family, like, creates a kind of, like, bed death, over time. Just, sex becomes so complicated and Byzantine that, he's experiencing sexual repression. And that sexual repression is like cued in that moment. However, as Savannah points out, the wife becomes progressively awful.
Yes. Yeah, the
So-
wife I feel like doesn't start out quite that bad. I feel like they're all
Yeah.
cartoony in the sense
She
like
grows increasingly
Yes.
castrating, right? As
yeah.
time passes.
She starts like she becomes an evil witch essentially.
Right. Unnecessarily cruel to him.
Yes.
And he just sort of comes off as this like inept schlub.
Yes.
So you sort of like feel bad for him. He's at her mercy in that way. Otherwise, he's awful. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but
I wrote in my note, I'm looking at my notes right now. I said, Jim is an awful person and deserves everything that is about to happen to him.
but there's no way he can win over on his wife, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because there's Another conflict that he has with his wife is that he goes and he buys her like something that she wanted from a gift shop. He buys her this like little crystal bell that has like a little crystal character on the top of it or whatever, Dumbo.
Yeah.
And so, but for whatever reason, he sticks it in his bathing suit pocket and jumps into a pool with a glass object and swims over to her and gives it to her. And she's like, oh, yay. And then she's like, really, Jim? Dumbo?
Yes.
I wanted Minnie Mouse, Jim. I wanted Minnie Mouse. And like, and she says it just like that. And then she's like, you didn't reapply sunscreen to the kid? And he's like, what? And she's like, it's Florida,
Jim. Every attempt, right, to create a romantic situation with this woman is frustrated.
Yes,
every
that's
time.
true.
Like he's just trying to treat her like a girlfriend, you know, and it's botched. She intercepts every time.
I can see that.
So then becomes the obsession with the French girls who, you know, the logic of the French girls being 16, which offended Savannah, rightfully so, and which is what makes him creepy and unlikable, though, is that we're going back to a time when you have relationships with women that are not this complicated, and your wife does, you know, that's your 16-year-old girlfriend doesn't, you know, shut you down because, you know, you have kids. She doesn't shut you down because you got her the bell. She says, oh, that bell's great. I love you. I'm obsessed with you, because she's 16. That's how 16-year-olds are with each other.
Yes.
So he's regressing, I think, with that. He's trying to live out a fantasy of a time that's gone.
But I think the thing that really gets me is like how much these teenagers are sexualized in the movie. Like there's like a part where like they're zooming in on like them, like their body parts and stuff.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah, and then there's another part that
their shorts.
Yes.
It's their shorts. And then, of course, when they get stripped down for the pool.
Yes, for the bathing suits.
Yeah.
But there's another part where they get in line for the ride Autopia, which is like the car driving ride. And they stop in the middle of the queue to like sexily eat bananas.
It is. I was thinking, did they sell bananas in the park? I couldn't figure out where the bananas came
I don't know. They must have brought them themselves, because I don't know.
Chicken fingers.
You probably could buy a banana
They
in the
walked
park.
into that park just in their shorts. They didn't have anything on them.
Well, yeah, but you can pack a bag and bring lunch
They
into
didn't,
the parks.
though. We see them go to the park.
Oh, you mean in the terms of the movie.
They literally just walked into the park in their clothes.
Yeah, no. So, yeah, where do they get those
Where
bananas?
did they get those
But also,
bananas?
like, they're stopped in the middle of a queue for the ride to eat these bananas. And then Jim and his son are watching them sexually eat these bananas. And I'm like, that's where I was like, why... I understand. Okay, because I really, if you explain it from how you just explained it, it makes sense, but it still is fucking creepy and weird to like how much the movie sexualizes these
And they're
kids.
outside reality.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that the weirdness of the banana and the queue is that they're outside of.
I guess.
They are pushing at the very bounds
but
of
I'm
an
talking
unrealistic.
about like the actual movie itself.
Oh, like
filming
making these
them?
girls do this?
Yes, in Disney World.
It is kind of. Now it's funny.
But I think it's really creepy.
I mean, they're actors.
Yeah.
So they expect to. I mean, we're talking about Blue Lagoon next. So like, of all the things you could make a teenager do, this is not so bad.
I know, but what I'm just saying about the movie is, why did he write it this way? Why is there so much time spent sexualizing these children? That's my point I'm trying to make.
Well, I mean, I get my reason is the reason, I think.
Yeah, but I feel like it didn't. You could have driven that point home without sexualizing them quite as much, maybe.
Or maybe less exploitative in the park. I don't know. And they don't necessarily need to be 16. Like, you can have the same fantasy about your college girlfriend. They could be 19. They could be 22. You know, they don't have to be 16. But the 16's more edgy.
Yeah.
Right?
Whatever.
The girl with the braces.
This movie, I feel like, and Rob and I kind of talked about this. We were texting each other while he was watching it. I was texting him while I was watching it, and then he texted me while he watched it, because I had to buy the DVD because you can't stream it anywhere. And
on campus, you can't watch a DVD anymore. But this one apparently doesn't work well enough in our one DVD player that functions on campus.
Yeah, because we did try to watch it together, but then
didn't work out.
Watch it. And but oh god, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so I watched it and then I gave him the DVD. Mm-hmm. But so I completely lost my train of thought now.
Well, we were texting about something. The French girls?
Yeah, they're just
all right.
Shit.
Well, let's finish the sexual repression line of thought. So Getting back to the Epcot inside the ball, he has the orgasm. Now it's a weird Neosporin orgasm. It's not an actual orgasm.
Yeah, you don't ever see. That's another thing. Maybe we should talk about real fast. Is the censoring of nudity in this movie?
Yes,
is very strange. Oh, I was going with the fact that I feel like this movie is cosplaying edgy.
Yes, I think that's true.
I don't think it's quite as edgy.
It's not the first movie to do that.
No, I don't think it's quite as edgy as it thinks it is.
Yes, I think that's true. It could get away with being less edgy. We could have had, like, everything I just said about those 16-year-old girls and what they represent could have been done, with a 19-year-old girl who was far more wholesome.
Yeah. But also, like, I just feel like some of the things that we see that are meant to be, like, scary and, like, whatever, like, could have went further. And before you get to the orgasm thing, just real fast, I'm going to make you wait a little bit longer.
Yes. Edging.
No, that's it.
That's it.
Now I have to leave it in the episode. Damn it. Oh, no.
That's a win for me. Before we get to the orgasm. Oh, see, you keep cucking yourself.
Stop. We're going to be talking about this movie all night long. We're never going to be able to escape from tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, see, that's we're trapped.
So... the thing that really got me with the censoring, they censor nudity in a very strange way in this movie, and I think I even wrote it in my notes. I want to find that note real fast. They didn't go for full nudity, cowards, because when that woman is raping him, she has like a bra on and stuff like that, and
they're
she's
very,
she's
very
very
about
clothed, honestly, and. So I was like, okay, they didn't go for full nudity. Strange. But then we're watching Soren, and that woman's tits are out. And I'm like, oh, so we can show that woman's tits, but not that woman's tits? I don't understand. And then the other thing, and then at the end, when he's literally like on the toilet shitting his brains out, you're watching him. They censor his butt.
They do censor his butt. But as I pointed out, those are the only breasts he's actually seen. That's his real wife when he sees the screen.
You think that's the reason?
I like that as the reason. I don't know if that is the reason.
They're just...
The real Jim is married to that woman on that screen. Therefore, he knows what her breasts look like.
This is an unrated movie that is trying to be super fucking edgy, but they can only show me one pair of tits.
Well, I would take the bottoms off, too, if I really wanted to be edgy.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, go full nudity. Full frontal in that moment, I think. If you're going to do it, go all the way in.
I think that's where I'm going with it.
But the evil queen, I think the idea is that we don't want that moment to be sexy because it's not sexy. It's bad sex.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah. So...
Sure.
Back to the Geosporin.
I just felt like it was in I don't know, because that censoring of the nudity was a very interesting issue for me. So now talking about this, where we see the tits all over the place as he even ejaculates the geosporic onto the picture.
Yes, onto the picture of the naked wife. Yeah.
Yes,
that he doesn't know is his wife. But that orgasm sort of like breaks the spell. The movie is able to resolve after that because it has been up to that point a nightmare of his sexual repression. Shortly thereafter, he can just die.
And he does.
Bad Jim expires, and good Jim can be born because bad Jim has been spawned by an accumulation of, sexual repression. Whether the movie intends to say this or not, it is saying this. Bad Jim is the product of an accumulating sexual repression in this middle-aged man that is finally purged in the person of Bad Jim. When Bad Jim reaches that orgasmic moment, ironically with Neosporin, because he's going to be diseased out of existence, the Neosporin itself, right, is sort of killing the disease that is Bad Jim, who dies in this fit of cat flu. And then good Jim can arrive, having plenty of sex with his very attractive wife and a daughter who loves him. Not having sex with her. Sorry. Ooh.
Oh.
But they have a daughter.
Yes.
And she loves him.
I think there's also another interesting moment, too, at the very beginning of the movie, because, like, when him and his wife split up for the first time, it isn't for bad reasons. It's because the son wants to ride Buzz Lightyear and the daughter wants to ride the teacup. So they're like, we'll take the kids separate places. There's a part, and they're not able to ride Buzz Lightyear because it gets shut down.
Because the Siemens does it.
Because Siemens does it.
Yeah.
But, so they're riding the People Mover and they see the French girls, and the French girls wave at them and stuff. And the son is like, "Is mom pretty?"
Yeah.
And the dad goes, "Yeah, in a Tina Fey way,
Bookish way.
in a Emily Dickinson
Emily
way."
Dickinson, yeah.
And then the mom at the end of the movie is like, "You told him I look like Emily Dickinson?"
I mean, so, and the other point in favor of the sexual repression theory is that the French girl, before she spits in his face, the one with the braces, she says, "Come with us." And he won't go with her. But in theory, if he had, she wouldn't have spit in his face and he wouldn't have died of cat flu. So there's a version of this, and I can't quite piece together what this means, but there's a version of this where Bad Jim is somehow revived by a sexual invitation from a 16-year-old embraces. It still makes sense if we think about him as a sexually repressed individual. If he could just somehow go with the French girls, everything will work out, even for Bad Jim. Maybe he's merged with Good Jim. I have no idea. Because Good Jim is, it seems, is a separate person. But the personalities, maybe the personalities are merged in some sort of like therapeutic process. And Bad Jim doesn't have to be killed, but he can be subsumed by the dominant personality of Good Jim if he's just allowed to see through his perverse fantasy of the French girls.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure that out. That is the oddest moment for me, trying to think back through the logic of the movie.
Well, and it's interesting too in that moment because like it's also, well, I guess I'll talk about that in a moment. But so they're at the exit for Soren, and the French girl comes over at first, kisses the daughter on the cheeks, like a greeting or whatever, and then takes Jim's hand, and the three of them all go together to ride Spaceship Earth. And then he wakes up and realizes it was a dream, and he still has his daughter with him, and he sees the French girl, but then the French girl does actually come over to him, and that's when she's like, "Come with us." So, and then when he doesn't go with them, she spits in his face, he still ends up in Spaceship Earth.
Yes. But without them.
But without them. But what does that mean?
I don't know. Spaceship Earth, I guess, the only association for me is that that's the corporation. That's Siemens.
Yeah.
So either he follows the Siemens plan of, recombining those personalities into one human, Good Jim subsuming Bad Jim, and Bad Jim, like, the trauma of Bad Jim being resolved through the French girls, or Bad Jim rejects the French girls and has to be, violently destroyed by the cat flu.
But then how, see, and this is where I'm getting caught up in the movie, is like, where does his family, and I know that you also have questions about it too, where does his family fit in? Is his family real? Because if Jim is not real, the bad Jim, the Jim that we follow the entire movie, if he's not real, then who the fuck are these people?
The son is certainly a kind of like enemy figure in this weird Freudian scenario,
Yeah, him and his son are at odds the entire movie.
Yeah. And Savannah was the one that, actually made sense of the ending to me. I didn't figure that the son's memory was wiped. But if that's the case, logically, we should remove both the wife and the daughter, because if we're removing Bad Jim, then we have to remove the wife and the daughter. And from the son's standpoint, a new family will show up comprised of Good Jim with his hot new wife and the same daughter. And now the son gets to have a good family rather than the shitty family that he had before. Disney has sort of like scrubbed his life clean with the cat flu. But that version of events doesn't make sense because the wife is still there and the daughter is still there when the daughter herself shows up to her own hotel vacation from outside with her father, as her father's being...
But with a different mom.
Right. So that doesn't quite click together, but it would be an interesting interpretation that the son is actually the central character who's having his shittiest life, and that Disney somehow Siemens scrubs that clean and gives the boy a new family.
So I know that Siemens was behind everything, but it definitely implies at the end that Disney is the one that wipes his memory.
Yes.
Because they're wearing Disney iconography and stuff like that.
It's Disney's job to make you have a good vacation.
And forget about the bad stuff.
It makes the most sense that Good Jim now comes in, scoops up little Elliot, and everything goes well for him.
But it doesn't show us that.
No. And it wouldn't make any sense because there's already a woman who is that child's mother.
Yeah.
Who is not the hot wife.
Also, I feel like we didn't talk about cat flu enough in the sense that cat flu, like, the park in the movie, for basically only a minute, gets shut down due to the cat flu pandemic. Mm-hmm. And then it has, like, shots of actual park goers, not their actors, actual park goers at, like, rope drop for the parks, excitedly walking back into the parks. And it plays it as this, like, mania of, like, look at these Disney adults, so excited to come back after the pandemic, which I guess kind of did happen, but it was a lot different than how the movie portrayed it. I just think that's a really interesting point to make, because this movie was made, like, they started it in 2010 and then it was released in 2013, so like way before the pandemic. But it is interesting to have the idea of Disney shut down due to a pandemic in this movie, and then we actually got to witness what that was like. So I think that was something important to talk about. So are you done?
I think I've had enough.
Okay, well, because I wanted to talk about Randy Moore is an interesting character in the sense that, like, it feels like he's both, like, a Disney adult and then isn't. Like, the
movie kind of bears that out. He both loves and hates Disney. Because
he has flat out said, like, that this was not a political statement against Disney. And also, but some of the ways that he talks about park guests in the interviews really kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Like, there was this one interview that he had where he was talking about the show Phantasmic, which is a show that you can see in Hollywood studios at night. And I'm a Disney adult, so I think it's an impressive show. It's got this, like, mountain. There's all these really cool special and practical effects and stuff like that. And he was watching that show, scouting for this movie, I think. And he says that there's a moment where Mickey Mouse, like, appears on the top of the mountain, and the audience, this is the way he says it, he's like, the audience gasped as if God himself had appeared before them.
As a way of mocking them.
Yeah, as a way of mocking them. Like, they're, like, crazy people and stuff. And I'm like, I think the people there were just impressed by the special effects of
gasping at the stage effect.
Yeah, because, and I know what moment he's talking about. Mickey Mouse is, like, at the bottom of the mountain in a completely different costume. The lights flash, and literally all of a sudden, like, before your eyes, he's up on top, like, 50 feet up in the air, and then his fireworks are shooting from his fucking fingers. Like, it's impressive. So come on. It's cool. But, like, I don't know. I feel like it's, like, a really shitty thing. And, like, there are people that take Disney way too seriously and, like, would look at Mickey Mouse that way. But to
this
act
movie's
like,
not really about them in any way.
No, but to act like every park guest that is there
is
someone like that
it's an odd reflection.
Shitty.
And isn't relevant to what he's done here.
No, and it's not true. And I don't know why he's saying that kind of shit in interviews. But I feel like there are parts of the movie that feel like they are actively making fun. I feel like the thing that actively makes fun of people who enjoy Disney vacations the most is that there is this reoccurring character and his name is literally Scooter Guy. Like,
oh, yeah. He's an asshole.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's this, like, big...
It's sort of like a fake Southern accent.
Yes, he's got, like, the Southern Belle type accent, like the I do declare.
yeah.
He sounds like Michael Scott doing it, like, from The Office. He shows up. You see him multiple times throughout the movie. The first time you see him is on It's a Small World. And Jenny Nicholson actually pointed this out, and I remembered this point when I was watching the movie, is that he is an actor that they paid to do this. He doesn't actually need a wheelchair or a scooter, but they obviously used a handicapped, like, vehicle for him. So they took away a spot from an actual, like, handicapped family in order for him to film this scene that is actively making fun of people who go to Disney World and enjoy Disney World vacations. Which I think is kind of shitty. Because, like, the way
insofar as he's meant to represent them and he's not cool.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And also the way he acts when he's on the ride, like, I don't know, you can watch him and he's, like, doing this, like, weird, like, he's, like, dancing, and it looks like it feels like it's making fun of people who are just enjoying
We'd have to
parks.
interpret him as standing in for the Disney guest.
I kind of do.
But I don't see... the French girls are also Disney guests, aren't they?
I guess.
And the family. The French girls are the least offensive, right, of all the characters. Like, there's nothing wrong with them, really. They're a little weird with a middle-aged man near the end there, but other than that,
But the Seaman Corporation made them do that.
right?
So
Yeah, I mean, if we take away all that
they
sort of
might be
funkiness,
robots. So
they're like it's sort of like as a compliment to the park that a couple of 16-year-old girls who are perfectly normal and from France would enjoy an American theme park in this way. So I guess I contextualize him like the scooter man with all these other characters who they're portraying as Disney guests.
as like just a cartoony, but that's why I see him as a
Yeah.
cartoony version. I feel like this is Randy Moore's way of making fun of people
Because
who
he
enjoy
has
the
no
parks.
other real role in the story other than to be kind of a jerk to the dad, who's also a
and
jerk.
He's a reoccurring character because, like I said, his son pushes the daughter. She scrapes her knee, and the Jim is like, "Dude, what the heck?" And he's like, "I don't know."
But he has nothing to do with the plot.
Yeah, nothing.
Otherwise, unlike the French girls or
Yeah.
the family, yeah.
So that's where I'm like,
There's also the guy in the bathroom where he cuts his foot on the beer bottle. There's the guy who sees him in the bathroom and says to his kid, "We're not washing our hands," and they leave the bathroom.
yeah, well, because Jim is washing his bloody
Yeah.
sock in the sink.
But
so
that's like a normal guy. He's like
Yeah.
he's not even
But
he's an
then-
attractive man, actually.
But then the scooter guy is in the bathroom.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's like, "Where's your daughter?"
Yeah.
And that was weird. And
Yes.
and then it's also funny too that when they show up to Epcot for the first time, because like he runs into Scooter Guy in the Magic Kingdom. He sees Scooter Guy entering Epcot around the same time as him, and he's like, "What the fuck's that guy doing here?" And his wife's like, "He's probably here to see the fireworks." And I'm like, yeah, that happens. Like when you're on a Disney World vacation, you a lot of the time see the same families going to the same parks on the accidentally same days.
The
and
logic
stuff.
of the French girls too.
Yeah.
That you would see them,
Yeah, because people. Yeah, so
whether
I
or not
did
you're
think-
stalking them.
Yeah, exactly. Because that happened to me a couple times. Like I've accidentally made friends with families in line for rides, and then ended up in line behind them in a different park at a different day, and I was like, oh shit, like that. Was...
I remember when Kate and I were honeymooning in Scotland, you know, I would see these other couples who were, you know, on some sort of like romantic vacation too. And even traveling around like a country, it's not a big country, but we would run into these couples again.
So it's not that outrageous. Also, when he first walks into Epcot and they're looking at the Epcot ball, he's like, yep, that's a giant testicle.
Yes.
What?
It's such an odd comment.
It was so weird. Yeah, wow, it's a giant testicle.
I just looked past it, I think, as I was busy with the rest of it.
Oh, I also wrote down this moment too because it does try to talk about like how Disney can not help, like people use Disney as escapism and people use Disney to like cover up bad memories and stuff like that, which is definitely something that he is suggesting with his father and like those memories and stuff. There's a lot of moments where Jim is acting like a complete asshole, and his wife is like saying to the kid, she's like, "Oh, just look up at the fireworks, ignore your dad, just look up at the fireworks and stuff." So I
Right.
feel like that's kind of an important moment.
And yet in the moment when she slaps the daughter, rather than distract the children by allowing them to buy the toys they want from the vendor, she says no and smacks her in the face.
Yeah.
And Jim, I think, tries to buy the toy for the girl, and yeah, he gets...
That moment is really interesting too. But yeah, so where also I think this is also where I was going with this, as I feel like the movie it doesn't go out of its way to mock people who enjoy Disney vacations, but I definitely saw it. I felt like it was a thing that happened.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, the more we talk about it, now I'm starting to think the scooter guy was meant to be with Siemens, but
But he wasn't though, because the Siemens
they never
guy,
say so. Yeah,
and the movie feels like it would have said so, because it was like
yeah,
this
pointed
was
out everybody else.
Yeah. But the thing, so I do want to remind everybody also that this was actually filmed in Disney World. Everyone who is around the main cast are not actors. They are actually people on a Disney World
Who
or
didn't sign
Disneyland
image
vacation.
releases.
Yes. And the movie at points is kind of actively making fun of them. And I feel like that's kind of shitty.
Yeah, that would be uncool.
Yeah. And it's also, too, like a lot of the scenes, especially that Jim films, are kind of obnoxious. And you can even see, like, people in the background being like, what is this guy doing? So it's kind of, I feel like it's just kind of, like, shitty to have done this in terms of that. Because it's like, these people paid a lot of money for this vacation. Not everyone who goes to Disney World is a Disney fanatic. Like, they go for, like, a once-in-a-lifetime, like, everybody takes their kids to Disney World at one point in their life type thing. I'm not saying everybody, you know what I mean? That's like a thing that people do. So I think them kind of actively making fun of these people, acting like everyone who's there is a hardcore Disney fanatic is not fair. And then also, like, they're interrupting these people's vacations by doing these weird stunts. Like, so I don't remember, I don't think that this specific shot actually made it into the movie, but in an interview, Roy Abramson was, I got Jim and Roy mixed up. The Roy is the guy who played Jim. When he's looking for his daughter for a second time, the Epcot fireworks are going off, and he's running through actual
Calling her
crowds
name.
of people, like, who are just there to watch fireworks, and he's running around and he's screaming for his daughter. And at one point, that I don't think that they put this in the movie, but Roy said that this happened. He grabbed a random person's kid and turned it around and was like, "Are you Sarah?" And then, like, yeah. So, like,
way to commit to the role, but
also, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I just think, I don't know. I just wanted, because like I said, I do think that there is merit to this movie, and I think you've made me look at it in a different way, because I didn't see the sexual repression stuff. Now that you say it, I definitely 100% see it, but as I was watching it, I think I was just like, I just didn't.
I think, though, that the point then becomes, okay, so you have a movie that makes sense and is saying something. Do you need Disney? Why couldn't you just do this somewhere else where you're not going to have all these issues, where you don't have to weirdly green screen scenes?
Yeah.
You can just hang out in a theme park, an abandoned theme park, or, like a local theme park or a carnival where nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
And do this whole movie.
Yeah.
The whole plot. Like, it all works. It doesn't need Disney.
He says it does, though. He was legitimately, like, in interviews, he said this plot needed Disney. It needed to be filmed in Disney.
Only insofar as the gimmick of them doing this without Disney knowing, and the German character saying Disney doesn't know we're here. I see that all clicking together, sure. But I think that the pain of the middle-aged man and the pain of the middle-aged woman and the pain of the children in that family, if that's the story, why do we need Disney?
Because that's where his pain lies?
Fine, but can't we imagine our way into a very slightly different park?
Yeah. It's true.
Call it Misney.
Well, we were talking about it earlier, and it's like, we were like, we need to stop talking so we can just talk about this on the microphone. But you brought up a really good point that I was like, that you said you think the movie would have been more interesting if they went to an abandoned park and filmed it, everything the same, but acted as if it was an active, functioning theme park. And I'm like, oh, that would have been really cool.
We can still make this movie.
We could.
Yeah.
Honestly, this made me be like, I could make a much better movie in Disney World. I want to do that.
Yeah, let's go back.
Well,
we'll get rid of some of the grossness around the toilet. We don't need the cat flu stuff, but we can do this. All I need is a couple of French girls with wings.
Oh, yeah, because they show up dressed as Tinkerbell at the end of the movie.
Yes,
some other weird
so
things
funny.
that I like, some other weird visuals that happen is like these stupid CGI demon faces on like It's a Small World characters and stuff that look
It happens in
fucking
Mexico
stupid.
too, right? On
It
the Mexico
does.
route.
Yeah, and then the like French girl at one point walks by the wife and she has a demon face as well.
Yes.
Like that kind of stuff I thought was stupid. Yeah, I just like, I still don't think I like this movie.
I think that's fair.
hate it.
The green screen shenanigans are enough to make me very annoyed with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really wanted to point out that I feel like it's relatively unethical to be filming all these park guests.
I think
And
that's fair.
stuff.
That's a fair point. And I don't know that it's necessary.
Yeah, it's not. I personally also agreed that I don't think it is necessary. And there is one part in the movie too that, like, when the parks reopen, they definitely filmed people at rope drop who were rushing to rides to make it seem as if they were like rushing back after a pandemic, and they were filming these cast members who were all smiling and waving and stuff like that. That part is definitely actively making fun of Disney adults,
Sure.
right?
I think so. I mean, it's situated in the movie at a point where Bad Jim is making his
Exit.
yes, it's
Dying.
We're post-orgasm, yeah. So the audience for the movie does not feel great about anything they're seeing. Things have gone truly horrible,
Yeah.
and they're going to get worse.
And then it shows, and none of the actors are there. None of these people are actors. This is just them filming people at rope drop, excitedly going to their vacation, and it's actively making fun of them. And none of these people know.
Sure.
No, they never. I'm sure they never asked any of those people. I just think that's kind of
It's
shitty.
a lot of image releases, and they were being so sneaky. There's no way they were walking around with image releases.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And
which makes me think that the guy at the stand selling the girl the Mickey Mouses was probably an actor.
You think?
I mean, otherwise, he spoke.
That guy didn't. No,
he had a line. The
no,
guy
he didn't.
at the. Oh, did he just make a face?
He just made. So what we're talking about? Sorry, I feel like now we're getting. Well, just wrapping
we'll bring
up
it home. We'll bring it home in a minute here.
So the scene where the wife slaps the daughter, it's at nighttime, it's in Epcot, and they're right by like the big body of water in the World Showcase. And the daughter's like, I really want this toy, and the wife's like, no, and the daughter's like, I want this toy, and the wife's like, no, and she slaps her. And Jim like then grabs the daughter, and the mom like takes the son and leaves, and Jim's holding the daughter, and he's like, this doesn't normally happen. This doesn't normally happen. And then the camera slowly pans, and we see somebody who looks like a real cast member.
Dressed like a Disney employee. Yeah.
Looks at him like, I don't get paid enough for this shit.
Right, yeah.
Like, he doesn't say anything, which makes me think that it is a real cast member. But I also feel like there was a part of that scene that felt like, to me, might have been green screen. But then I'm like, did they slap this little girl in front of a cast member? I just like...
I don't know if he's... Yeah, I think it could go either way.
But it looks like a real cast member, especially the way his face is like, this is none of my business. I don't get paid enough for this.
How do you not tell this man that he's in a movie at that point? He's a character.
Sort of, yeah.
Unlike, the extras that are the rest of them. This guy was a character.
Vaguely. I mean, he was in it for just such a split second.
But he'd be credited if he were in a Hollywood movie.
You think? Oh, yeah,
he
yeah,
would be credited as guy at stand.
Yeah. But
or
this isn't...
stand employee.
This isn't Hollywood.
And then there'd be his name.
And to this point, too, I think that was another thing that pissed me off about it, especially in Epcot when Jim is drunk and acting like such an asshole. He's definitely fucking around with the employees and stuff like that. And he even said in an interview, like in the scene where they're in the restaurant in Germany, he says like some weird shit to the waitress, and he said that he was purposely trying to like say weird shit to the waitress and stuff like that. And one of the quotes that I got from him as he was talking about this was, I was trying not to say Nazi stuff. Which made me be like, and I literally wrote, the main actor is a freak.
Yeah, he's a weird dude.
And the way he talks about the teenage girls is definitely like
too much in character.
Yeah, I don't like this actor. And it's also really funny to watch interviews with Roy Abramson and Randy Moore, because Randy Moore like tries to talk and then Abramson talks over him constantly and like won't let Moore speak. And it feels like Moore is even like, shut up, please.
Yeah, classic actor.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I just don't like that part. And there's a lot of parts too, like where the spit thing happened. They're standing at the exit of Soren. So you can literally see people in the background like walking around them being like, why are you standing in the middle of the exit? Because people are trying to leave. And there's like a scene where that happens in the gift shop too, where he's like putting on this weird hat and you can see guests actually trying to like leave and being like, why are you standing in the middle of the road? Like, so it's just like, I don't know, for me it's just like, I really want to point out that I think it's a lot of the things that they did is kind of shitty for people who are actually on vacation there.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think it introduces a really interesting point, because every other movie, like especially big movies and stuff like that, you don't necessarily need to worry about stuff like that. Like they shut down everything, they're extras. In this movie, they're not, and these people have no idea. So I wanted to point that out too. Yeah. Like, so we can praise the movie. Also, I think there's a lot of shitty things that they did in this movie.
I don't know if we're praising it. We're giving it credit for having something to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting too, the copyright battle between them and Disney. Not really a battle. The copyright conversation that appeared because of it, I think is also really interesting too. I'm wondering if there's anything else that I wanted to say about this movie. I don't think so.
We have talked about it for an hour 35.
Wow.
Not too shabby.
Yes. Well, thank you for riding along with us. Please watch your step as you exit, and remember to take all personal belongings with you. The idea is that, sorry, because I didn't write the script for this part.
You're just gonna do legal theory off the cuff.
Yeah, I'm that smart. I'm that bitch.